3 women accused of witchcraft in China, 1922, await judgment, their expressions reflecting the fear and stigma surrounding such accusations in the early 20th century. J.P. Morgan's photo with Lia Groff made her famous, but she returned to Germany. Her Jewish heritage led to Auschwitz, where she and her family likely perished. In the 1950s, mannequins were used in bomb tests to study blast effects on the human body, helping scientists understand the dangers of nuclear explosions. Fishermen on Russia's Volga River proudly display a bountiful catch in 1924, reflecting both traditional livelihoods and the region's rich natural resources. Jane Mansfield and Mickey Hart, Hollywood icons of the 1950s and 60s, were a glamorous couple celebrated for their beauty, charisma, and high-profile romance. Paul Alexander, born January 30, 1946, in Dallas, Texas, lived most of his life in an iron lung due to polio, became a lawyer, memoirist, and disability advocate, passing in 2024. Lewis Hine captured Doffer boys at Aragon Mills, South Carolina, on May 13, 1912. Children replaced bobbins in dangerous textile mills, facing harsh conditions before child labor laws emerged. Richard Dick Winters, born January 21, 1918, led Easy Company in World War II, including D-Day and Hitler's Eagle's Nest capture. He remained humble and died January 2, 2011, aged 92. British tourists posed before the Great Sphinx in Egypt, 1910, capturing early 20th century travel, fascination with ancient monuments, and the era's growing interest in archaeology and exploration. Edith Wilson, born October 15, 1872, became a pivotal First Lady, managing President Woodrow Wilson's affairs after his 1919 stroke. She died December 28, 1961, aged 89. Jack Bonnevie, born 1866, was a daring lion tamer, famed for sitting among 13 lions. He lost an arm during a show and died March 19, 1917, from a polar bear attack. Martin Cunney, born 1869 in Poland, pioneered neonatal care by exhibiting incubator babies at fairs in the US, saving thousands. He died in 1950 at age 80. A family enjoys an auto-camping trip in Oregon, 1918, embracing the outdoors with their car packed full of supplies, capturing early 20th century leisure and adventure traditions. Niagara Falls, 1912, captured in its majestic early 20th century glory, with mist rising from the cascading waters and tourists marveling at one of North America's most iconic natural wonders. Betty Brosmer, born August 2, 1935, Pasadena, became an iconic mid-20th century pin-up model, fitness advocate, shape coach, and International Sports Hall of Fame inductee in 2014. Aleister Crowley, born Edward Alexander Crowley in 1875, was an English occultist, founder of Thelema, and controversial figure. He died December 1, 1947. John Robert Fox, born May 18, 1915, in Cincinnati, Ohio, was a U.S. Army officer who sacrificed himself in Italy, 1944, and posthumously received the Medal of Honor in 1997. Turkish soldiers posed during the War of Independence, 1922, capturing a moment of resolve and unity amid the nation's fight for sovereignty. Men stand inside a massive 45-ton steel pipe during construction of the Hoover Dam, 1935, showcasing the scale and danger of this monumental engineering project. Powerful image by James Corrales capturing the Selma to Montgomery March in 1965, symbolizing the courage and determination of civil rights activists fighting for voting rights. Franz Reitzel, born 1878 in Austria, was an inventor who died testing his parachute by jumping from the Eiffel Tower on February 4, 1912. In 1982, during President Ronald Reagan's 48-hour visit to Windsor Castle, he and 56-year-old Queen Elizabeth II went horseback riding around Home Park, a brief visit that still generated nearly 500 pages of British diplomatic files. George Burchett, the king of tattooists, photographed in 1930, gained fame for intricate tattoos, working with high society, and transforming tattooing into a respected early 20th century art form. A Tokyo deliveryman carries soba noodles in 1935, showcasing daily life in pre-war Japan, where street vendors and food deliveries were essential to urban culture and community routines. A behind-the-scenes look at the Death Star battle set during Star Wars: Return of the Jedi 1982, revealing the intricate models, props, and practical effects that brought the iconic space battle to life. Alvin Langdon Coburn's The Octopus 1912 is a striking photograph that exemplifies his fascination with abstract forms, capturing the swirling, almost surreal shapes of an octopus in motion. Violet Jessop, born October 2, 1887, earned the nickname Unsinkable Stewardess after surviving the Titanic, its sister ships Olympic and Britannic, enduring multiple maritime disasters before her death in 1971. This image shows a lively Saturday afternoon in Florence, Alabama, 1942, with townspeople out shopping, children playing, and everyday life continuing amid the backdrop of World War II. Tom Longboat, an Onondaga athlete from Canada, became the first Native American to win the Boston Marathon in 1905, showcasing remarkable endurance and bringing attention to indigenous talent in long-distance running. This iconic photo by James Corrales captures Lewis Marshall during the Selma to Montgomery March in 1965, a pivotal moment in the American civil rights movement advocating for voting rights. A cold December day in London, 1946. Families crowd, speed market, hunting for the perfect Christmas tree. Monte Fresco captures the joy and spirit after years of wartime hardship. Smoke, rubble, and shattered glass cover Wall Street after the 1920 bombing. Dozens were killed, hundreds injured. Anarchists were suspected, yet no one was ever convicted for the attack. Herb Ritt's 1984 Body Shop series photograph, Fred with Tires, captures sculptural masculinity. Fred poses shirtless, framed by stacked tires, blending industrial grit with timeless elegance in Hollywood. In 1957, near Paris, Albert Camus' Facile Vega crashed into a tree at 80 miles per hour. Camus, 46, died instantly, while his friend and driver Michel Gallimard succumbed days later. In 1952, Marine Sergeant Frank Prater tenderly fed an orphaned kitten during the Korean War. After the mother cat's death, he adopted the fragile animal, providing comfort amid devastation. In 1940, the Japanese army displayed the severed head of Yang Jinggu, leader of the Northeast Counter-Japanese United Army. His brutal death symbolized resistance against occupation, inspiring continued defiance. In 1986, photographer Tom Frost captured climbers ascending Kangtiga, a Himalayan peak in Nepal. Striking image highlights both the mountain's unforgiving beauty and the climbers' sheer determination. Ozzy Osbourne at the Odeon, London, 1976. Black Sabbath reigned heavy metal, charismatic, chaotic, unforgettable presence, a legend before turbulence, immortal after, the Prince of Darkness, forever shaping music history. A man loses his umbrella on a windy, snowy day in 1962. The storm rages, whipping snow through the streets, leaving him struggling against the winter chaos. "80 years ago, on the 2nd of September 1945, MacArthur delivers his speech at Japan's surrender ceremony. Allied representatives stand behind him, alongside the historic flag Perry raised in 1853. Ouija captures Max delivering the morning's bagels to a 2nd Avenue restaurant in New York City around 1940, showcasing daily urban life with his signature candid style. Violet Bonham Carter, born April 15, 1887, was a formidable British political figure, orator, and Hitler's critic, later joining the House of Lords. She died February 19, 1969. Violet Bonham Carter, born April 15, 1887, was a prominent British politician, powerful orator, and critic of Hitler. She joined the House of Lords and died February 19, 1969. German Luftwaffe personnel stand by Boeing B-17G Flying Fortress 423-9974 next to a hangar around mid-1944, illustrating the tensions of World War II's aerial battles. Roman Vishniak captured Zionist youth in 1939 at Werkdorp Nieuwest-Lewis, the Netherlands, learning construction while building a school and foundry, blending education with practical skills. Leni Riefenstahl is photographed preparing to film the 1934 Nuremberg Rally in Nazi Germany, later producing Triumph of the Will, a technically brilliant yet infamous propaganda film. A young woman in a skirt trains with boxing gloves on, a punching bag, embracing physical fitness and challenging gender norms in 1890. Traffic moves through the streets of Innsbruck, Austria, during the mid-1960s, capturing daily life, vintage cars, and the city's alpine backdrop. Margaret Berkwhite photographs a massive ladle at Otis Steel Mill in Cleveland, 1930, highlighting industrial power, smoke-filled air, and the monumental scale of American steel production. This is Kimberley in 1873, showing the edge of the famous Kimberley mine in South Africa. At the time, it was the center of a booming diamond rush that drew thousands of prospectors to the region. A Bedouin woman weaves while her family watches. In the mid-20th century, many Bedouins were encouraged or forced to settle, as traditional grazing lands were restricted and motor vehicles replaced animal transport. Supply carriers paddle a boat loaded with goods. Scenes like this show how essential supplies were transported across rivers and waterways before modern vehicles became widespread. These loggers from the Capilano Timber Company stand among towering cedars in 1918. Life in the camps was grueling: long days, strict rules, and crowded bunkhouses, but the work fueled a booming lumber trade that would increasingly shift toward the United States in the decades ahead. Arriving in Korea, she faced eager troops whose excitement even delayed the show. The crowd adored her, and she impressed everyone in her baggy army uniform. In August 1918, some of the first women were sworn into the U.S. Marine Corps. Their service marked an important step in the military's history and women's expanding roles. Polish refugees gather in Tehran in 1942, displaced by the upheavals of World War II. Many were forced to leave their homes, seeking safety far from the conflict. a unit of the Hitler Youth from Turkey marches at the Nuremberg Rally in autumn 1934. The rallies were powerful displays of Nazi ideology and international participation. This 1929 photograph by George Hoyningen captures guests at a Muslims for a night costume ball, showcasing the glamour and imaginative fashion of the era. Lawton tries out a machine pistol during a UK-Norwegian raid on Skirky, Finnmark. On March 11, 1945, the raid was part of Allied efforts in northern Norway during World War II. This 1959 photograph by William Klein shows the Hotel National in Moscow, capturing a glimpse of the city's architecture and everyday life during the late 1950s. German soldiers retreat with a fallen comrade after a failed attack on the Polish military transit depot at Westerplatte, Gdańsk, in early September 1939. The battle marked the beginning of World War II in Poland. This circa 1948 photograph by Louis Forer captures Union Square in New York City from Orbach's window, offering a glimpse of post-war urban life and daily activity. In this 1978 photo, Neil Armstrong becomes the first recipient of the Congressional Space Medal of Honor. President Jimmy Carter presented the medal to Armstrong and 5 other space pioneers, honoring their contributions to space exploration. Lonnie Johnson, born in Alabama in 1949, became a NASA engineer despite the challenges of segregation. Outside of space, he invented the Super Soaker, one of the most popular toys of all time. In 1921, a Chicago policewoman inspects a woman's swimsuit to enforce strict bathing suit length laws. At the time, women faced tighter dress rules than men, a standard that wouldn't fully change until decades later. A family of cherry pickers pauses during their work in 1940. Families often labored together in orchards, harvesting fruit under challenging conditions to make ends meet. This Old West saloon is filled with a tough-looking clientele, capturing the rough and ready atmosphere of frontier towns during the 19th century. A cowboy barbershop in Valley County, Montana, 1906, shows life in the frontier towns where cowboys could get a haircut and socialize after long days on the range. Vancouver, Canada, in 1907, a growing city at the edge of the Pacific. Streets and buildings reflect the early 20th century life of its residents. An unidentified couple poses with their Buick in California, 1930. The photo captures a moment of everyday life and the growing popularity of automobiles in the early 20th century. Winston Churchill, aged 6, poses with his Aunt Lady Leslie in 1880, a quiet family moment from the early years of the future British statesman. A young boy sells fish from a basket at a Boston street market in October 1909. Scenes like this show the everyday work and hustle of city life in the early 20th century. If you want to support us, please click the subscribe button and hit the like button. Thanks for watching.